Black alert. Black alert.
Alright guys, in this video we're going to look at putting in LEDs into our USS Discovery model kit by Polar Lights. So when I first got the kit and saw the clear parts, I was very interested in seeing if I could put in some LEDs, and the more I looked at it, the more reasonable it seemed. So if you look at the nacelles, you'd want one LED shining forward to kind of light up the front of it, and one shining back on that big long clear plastic part. And as I looked at it, if you took a 3mm LED, there's definitely enough room in there for a forward facing one and a rear facing one. As I looked at the main body of the ship, there's a lot of room in there. Easily to have one facing forward and have a few facing back at the impulse engines. So next thought was, with the impulse engines kind of being off to the side here, would there be enough room for it to kind of show through? If we kind of look, there is enough room there. That's a big enough gap to kind of get some light shining through. So I decided I did want to light it. Now the way I do my lighting is very simple and very inexpensive. What I'm going to kind of show you today and what I'm putting in the Discovery kit, I only spent about $7 buying some new LEDs. I had wire left over from my runabout project. I have a soldering iron and heat shrink tubing from old projects. And as you get into do-it-yourself lighting, you'll find that buying something like a spool of wire costs $5 or $6 and lasts you through quite a few projects. So here's what I'm going to do on the Discovery. I'm going to use a 9-volt battery and just 9-volt leads here. All my LEDs are actually pre-wired for 12 volts, but 12-volt LEDs will run on 9 volts. They just won't be quite as bright, and for this kit, that's going to be good. I don't need huge spotlights. I don't need it to light up a room. I don't need it to look like a flashlight. I just need it to light up a little bit. So 9-volt battery, a 9-volt lead, and some pre-wired LEDs. And these pre-wired LEDs, I bought about 20 of them for about $7. They're color coded, so we've got a black wire and a red wire. As long as you match those up with the leads coming off your 9-volt battery, you're fine. Okay, so there we go. That is an LED wired to a 9-volt battery. Now we want more than one LED, and what I'm going to do here, this is a real basic parallel circuit. A parallel circuit means that all of these LEDs are going to be connected to the power source directly. So you really can do something as simple as connecting all 3 of these LEDs to your one terminal. You know, don't let anybody scare you away from working on electronics yourself. It absolutely is something that you can do, and you really can't do anything simpler than this. Now once you have them all connected, you do want to put a little bit of solder on there to hold them all together. So you just use your soldering iron, touch the wires, and touch your solder, not to the soldering iron, but to the wires. There you go. So now we have those soldered together. You don't want to leave those ends uninsulated, so you can use a little bit of heat shrink tubing. Heat shrink tubing is very easy to use. You just want to cut yourself and have a smaller diameter piece that can fit over your wires. Slip it over. Then you can use a heat gun or even a hair dryer just to shrink it. All right, so right there, that is a simple set of 3 LEDs connected to a power source. 5-minute job. And once again, cheap. So you don't need to do much to put lights inside of a ship. So using that basic idea, I'm going to show you what I've worked out for the USS Discovery. So these are the LEDs I've wired up to use in the USS Discovery. And it's just as simple as what I just showed you with those 3 LEDs I've done together. So we start with one line from our power source, coming right in here. We separate the red to one side, the black to one side, and then we take 4 LEDs, just like we did in that little experiment, strip down their ends, wire all the reds together, wire all the blacks together. So that's going to be our 2 red lights for the back impulse engines, the blue light to shine forward on the deflector, and this light is going to run up the spine of the ship into the bridge dome. The other thing that we need is we need LEDs for the warp nacelles. So like I said, I wanted one to go forward, one to go backwards. So I have right here 2 LEDs that I've soldered together. Just like I did those, I just cut the leads very short. And on this, to run through the ship, I actually used magnet wire. So this is a very thin gauge, 30 gauge, that's thin enough that you can kind of fit between some parts. Then all I did was I used clear blue paint on the warp nacelle ones, on the deflector, clear red paint on the impulse engines, and I left the one for the bridge dome just kind of clear white. All right, when I connect it to my 9-volt battery, that's what I have. 8 working LEDs to power up the USS Discovery. We'll see in a little bit how to actually fit this into the ship, but the actual electrical work, not very difficult at all. Just mostly joining together all the reds, all the blacks, soldering them together, and then making sure they're insulated by heat shrink tubing over those exposed parts. So now that we've got the electrical sorted, it's time to actually working on the kit and making sure it's ready to be lit. So the first thing we did is paint the clear parts. So the lit strips on the front, we could just paint all that blue. The engines we can paint red. That long strip in the nacelle, we can just paint that blue. Now, the Bassard collectors at the front of the nacelle and the deflector dish, a little bit different story. So you really only want those 3 spots to be lit up. You want the rest to be your main hull color. So first thing we did was we paint the entire thing clear blue and masked off the back because we want the light to be able to shine through it. Then masked off those 3 little dots and sprayed the entire thing black, silver, and finally our hull color gold. So now when we put an LED behind it, hopefully we'll just get light those three parts. The deflector clear piece is about the same. We started by spraying the entire thing blue, then masking off the back so that the light can shine through. Then we masked just that center circle for the deflector dish. The rest of it, after it was masked, we painted black, we painted silver, and finally we did gold, leaving just that middle part to glow blue. After that, it was time to start modifying the solid pieces that we needed to modify. So even though there's a lot of room inside the nacelles, there were a couple locator posts here and here that I had to clip out. And that was very easy. Just used my snippers to snip those, come at them from the other side, snip them again. I think there's one right here. Just snipped those, then I used some rough sandpaper to get rid of any of the nubs, just to give myself a lot of room there. I still have locator pins all the way down the back, but now I've got room to put in my nacelles. I'm sorry, my lights into my nacelles. On the main hull, there was once again a locator pin right here behind the deflector. I came in with my snips, snipped that off so that I had lots of room for that LED to shine out. And then, even though I'm using magnet wire, have to make sure I've got plenty of room for those wires to run through. So I took a very small drill bit, drilled right in between these two panels, and then I used a jeweler's file to really file myself down a trench for those wires to run in. So just filed a couple lines for the wires to run in. One of the last modifications I had to do is on this. This is a solid part, so I had to drill a series of holes down through, then use my jeweler's file to file that out. That way we'll have an open back for light to shine through for those red clear parts. The final modification I had to make to the kit was to the spine. I had to give myself an opening for an LED to come up the spine and into the saucer. So starting underneath, I took a drill bit, and this hole runs about like that throughout. It comes up through the wall and through the top. Not sure how well you can see that. Yeah, just used a drill bit to drill through those and coming up the top. Now there's plenty of room between these two pieces for that LED to get to that dome. But kind of the scary cut is I had to cut the saucer. So you can see I cut a gap right there in the saucer. For that wire to run through. And that gap will not be seen because it is covered up on top by this piece and on bottom by the spine. And you can see right there, there's my LED poking out to light up that dome. So a pretty easy cut. It gets completely covered up, but that's kind of the biggest modification to be able to run a light into that dome. That's all the physical modifications I made to the kit, but of course if you're lighting it, you do have to light block it so the LEDs don't shine through the hull. So all of these surfaces where there's going to be LEDs inside, I airbrushed it glossy black, made sure light wasn't really shining through. Then I did this silver color to reflect light throughout. So all the exposed parts there got a coat of black and then a coat of silver to make them light blocked. So that's all the prep work that went into putting the lights in. Building the LEDs, wiring them up, modifying the kit, and what we're going to do next is start gluing those LEDs into the kit. Alright, so I'm taking my lighting setup, the wires that are going to connect to the power source, I'm feeding through those through the bottom. Now we're starting to get an idea of how it'll be. Blue light going forward, 2 red lights going back, clear light going up into the top of the ship, and these, for the warp nacelle, we're going to start gluing in just like that to the nacelles. All right, we're going to super glue those parts into the nacelle, and we'll check back after that is dried. All right, so now we have super glued in those LEDs into the nacelles, and we've used modeling glue to close the nacelles up. After that, we did some super glue right here to hold that magnet wire into the trench we made for it. A little bit of super glue to hold the blue LED pointed right in the right direction up front. So what we're going to do next is take the LED that's going to go all the way up to the bridge, feed it through a hole we made in the top of the engineering hole. And what I'm going to do next is just traditional modeling glue to close all of this up, then attach the nacelles to that part, and then we'll see where we are. All right, we've glued on the nacelles, we've glued the engineering hole together. Now it's time to take care of this last LED. That's going to start by going up the spine of the ship. Now we're going to put this part of the saucer down. The final part will just be to cap it with this. All right, I'm going to go glue all those parts together. And when I'm back, we should get to see the lights in action for the first time. Okay guys, we have everything glued together, everything fits. We're going to see how well it works. We're going to start off looking at the back. I have not glued in these red pieces. I'm going to want to be able to take those off again while I paint the ship. Let's turn on the lights. All right. So we have the blue engines glowing. We've got the red impulse engines glowing. Okay, I'm going to take off those red lenses. Set those aside for a minute. All right, there's our side view. Lit nacelles, lit strips by the deflector. All right, how's that look? Got the deflector lit. Got the lower bridge dome lit. We've got the Bassard collectors lit. There's the bridge dome. So I wouldn't say it's terribly easy to do, but it can be done. A little bit of pre-planning, a little bit of looking at how the parts go together. And yeah, you do have to modify it a bit, but there is room in there to put in some lights. All right, coming up the next few days, we'll start actually painting it. looking at some of the details and decals